Thank you, Chairman Wicker, and appreciate the witnesses being here today. Mr. Jeffries and Mr. Spear, New Mexico's border region, including the Santa Teresa port of entry, is a bright spot in New Mexico's economy. The economic development in this area is due mostly to trade from Mexico and a 2010 expansion of the port of entry. Now, Customs and Border Patrol seeks funding to increase capacity for inspectors and for infrastructure because of the increased traffic. Additionally, railroads say the increased Customs and Border Patrol resources would help with faster and more thorough inspections of goods crossing the border. In your opinion, should Congress include ports of entry in any upcoming infrastructure legislation? Would increase funding for customs and infrastructure in areas such as the Santa Teresa facility facilitate economic development while providing greater security for the border and for the country?
Thank you, Senator Udall. Cross-border traffic is immensely important to the rail industry. We've learned through analysis that 42% of revenues, 37% of traffic is due to cross-border movement, supporting 50,000 rail jobs specifically. That's not only north and south, but also in and out of our ports as well. But our largest cross-border movement is grain exports to Mexico. So free flow and efficient flow of goods across borders, Mexico included, is critical to the success not only of the economy, but the rail industry. And anything that can be done to make that flow more efficient, to keep goods moving back and forth, I think is a good idea worth considering.
Yeah, and including it in an infrastructure type package for improvement.
I think that absolutely merits consideration.
Yeah. Mr. Spear, do you have any thoughts on that?
I would wholly agree with Mr. Jeffries on that point. From a trucking perspective, we move 76% of the NAFTA surface freight. 82% of the border crossings with Mexico are moved by truck. And I've been down to the border. Laredo's a good example. I know it's not in your home state, but 14,000 trucks a day. It is unbelievable. And the amount of emphasis that you could put on funding infrastructure, CBP, FMCSA with safety, U.S. Ag with agricultural concerns that they have to inspect for, good trade policy, good tax policies. It's a culmination of a lot of things that makes the efficiency work. I think an infrastructure bill certainly could look at that and be a part of that equation. We would strongly favor that, Senator.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Willis, are you familiar with the Amtrak proposal to turn around trains in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Dodge City, Kansas, and bus passengers across Kansas, Colorado, and into New Mexico? One reason that Amtrak gives for this dramatic shift in routes is safety. Do you believe that it would actually be safer for trains to stop in these cities, customers to be offloaded onto buses, and then driven over high mountain passes, especially in the winter?
Well, I would defer to Amtrak on that specific route. What we have been seeing with Amtrak, with the Southwest Chief and some of the other long-distance routes is a little bit of walking away from them on their commitment to a national railroad and national service. We think Amtrak is an important component of our multimodal transportation system, but for that to be a part of that, they have to be a national system. They have to provide the long-distance routes. They may not always be profitable, but they provide a public service, and they provide transportation options in places like in your state where there may not be enough. So we want to make sure that Amtrak continues to be in the business of providing those type of routes, and we've been pretty vocal about it with Amtrak both publicly and privately.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And I think it's really clear if you look at the routes and look at where they're talking about offloading and doing buses that there's a very serious safety issue there. So I'm urging Amtrak to take a look at that. I know the chairman has an Amtrak issue with the Gulf Coast from Katrina. I think there are a lot of Amtrak issues where we need to really make some investments. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.